Okay, you've definitely seen this book, right? The purple one. For decades, Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad has been, well, a huge deal in the world of personal finance. But what's the one big idea that made it so famous? That's what we're going to unpack today. These two totally different ways of thinking about money that are at the very heart of the book.
So let me ask you right off the bat, which financial dad did you grow up with? I mean, the whole book is built around this idea, right? The story of two father figures who gave him completely opposite advice about money. Think about it. Which one of those mindsets shaped how you think about your finances? So, here they are, side by side. On one hand, you have the poor dad. And, this wasn't a guy who was actually poor. He was a highly educated government official. He followed that path we all know so well. Go to school, get a safe job, get that steady paycheck, and just climb the ladder. Then there's the rich dad, who was an entrepreneur. He believed real wealth had nothing to do with your salary. No, it was all about owning things that make money for you. It's really two completely different paths, leading to two totally different places. And that brings us to probably the single most famous lesson from the entire book. Seriously, if you remember one thing, it's probably this. It's a super simple rule about where your money should be going. Okay, so according to Rich Dad, an asset is, well, it's dead simple. It's anything that puts money in your pocket. That's it. Think about it, like a rental property that gives you cash every single month, or stocks that pay out dividends. It's something that actively generates income for you. And on the flip side, you've got a liability. It's just as simple. It's anything that consistently takes money out of your pocket. Like a car loan, credit card debt, basically anything that's just draining your cash, month after month after month. And this quote right here, it just nails the key difference in behavior. Kiyosaki's whole point is that it's not about how much money you earn, it's about what you do with it. The rich, he says, focus on buying assets. Meanwhile, the poor and middle class, they're often buying liabilities, and a lot of the time they don't even realize it. They think they're buying assets. And that leads us to his most controversial idea by far. We've all been told our home is our biggest asset, right? But let's use Rich Dad's really strict definition here. Does the house you live in put money in your pocket every month? Or when you think about the mortgage, the taxes, the insurance, the repairs, does it just relentlessly take money out? It's a question that's really designed to just blow up all that conventional financial advice we've heard our whole lives. You see, this way of thinking, it's about way more than just numbers on a balance sheet. It's a whole philosophy for how to escape what Kiyosaki famously called the rat race. So here's what that cycle looks like. First, you work for a paycheck. Then, maybe you get a raise. Awesome. But what happens? Your expenses go up too. You get a bigger house, a nicer car, and suddenly you're trapped. You have to keep that job to pay for this new lifestyle. And that fear, the fear of losing that paycheck, it just becomes this constant weight on your shoulders. It's like you're running faster and faster on a hamster wheel, but you're not actually getting any closer to freedom. So the whole point here, the big takeaway, is that escaping the rat race means you have to fundamentally change your thinking. Instead of just working harder and harder for more money, the goal becomes something else entirely. Acquiring assets that work for you, things that generate income around the clock, whether you're working or not. That, according to Rich Dad, is the real path to financial freedom. But how did he learn all this stuff? Well, it definitely wasn't in a classroom. Rich Dad's whole philosophy was that you don't learn financial literacy from a textbook, you learn it on the street, in the real world. He basically threw a young Robert Kiyosaki right into the fire, into real business deals, forcing him to look at actual financial statements, teaching him to see the world through the eyes of an investor. This wasn't just education. It was more like an apprenticeship in the psychology of wealth, the kind of thing Kiyosaki says our schools completely, totally ignore. Okay, so with an approach this different, you just know it's going to stir up some controversy. And for all its massive influence, Rich Dad, Poor Dad has always been surrounded by some pretty sharp criticism and really heated debate. And that really gets to the central question for anyone picking this book up today. Is it this empowering new way to think about building wealth? Or is it just dangerously oversimplifying a super complex reality? The truth, like with most things, is probably somewhere in the middle. So let's actually break down some of those main criticisms. First, a big one, that it totally oversimplifies poverty, that it basically blames a poor mindset and just ignores all the systemic barriers and lack of opportunity that people face. Second, while the ideas are catchy, a lot of people read it and feel frustrated because it's pretty light on the actual concrete steps you can take.
And finally, there's always been this big question mark. Was Rich Dad even a real person, or was he just a fictional character, a parable made up to prove a point?
And this question right here, it really gets to the heart of the most serious criticism of the book. I mean, think about it. What's the danger of telling people, if you're not rich, it's just because you don't think right? What about all the people who work incredibly hard but are still held back by things completely outside of their control? It's a philosophy that really risks just blaming people for their own circumstances. So, with all that said, how should we look at this book today? Let's kind of draw up a final balance sheet, weighing its most powerful ideas against its biggest flaws. Okay, on one side, the most useful idea, for sure, is that relentless focus on financial literacy, on acquiring those income-producing assets. It's a really powerful framework for thinking about building wealth. But the most dangerous idea is that implication that not having wealth is only a personal mindset failure. It's a view that just totally discounts the very real economic challenges so many people face. And that's where we'll leave it. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it fundamentally challenges the idea that a traditional, stable job should be the end goal. It really champions a world of investors and entrepreneurs. But is that the only way? Can the Poor Dad's path, a good education, a stable career, saving carefully, can that still lead to a secure life in the world we live in today? The book definitely has its answer, but the one that really matters is your own.